All right, Kirsten Judkins, thank you so much for coming onto our show, taking time out of your schedule to be with us. Um, we are so into your artwork and your designs and style and everything. And so when we were working through our list of people that we wanted to have on, a big part of it was like who's at the Festival of the Arts and stuff like that. But we also wanted to highlight like small business owners who are doing Disney stuff and really kind of making a go at it. And so it was really important for us to have you on here. Spoiler for a little bit of your guest appearance. We have made several purchases from your website. Your gift tags are on all of our Christmas gifts every year.
Oh,
So
I love that.
so welcome to our show. We're so glad to have you here.
Well, I'm so honored to get to be here. Seeing the other interviewees that you guys are having, I'm just so honored that you guys wanted me to be on your show. And the biggest thing I think for me that I was like so honored by was when you guys told me that you had purchased a few of my items in the past. Because I when I saw that you wanted me on your show, I was like, oh my gosh, that means that they like their products when they got them.
Yeah.
So that made me happy.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's so funny because I actually before we recorded, I went up to my office and I grabbed this little guy.
Oh,
So
yeah,
for those of you
Millennium Falcon.
listening, yeah, it's like, oh, I had it upside down. For those of you listening, it's like a vintage Millennium Falcon stamp sticker, and it has 77 on it for the price, which is perfect for Star Wars. It's so great. So yeah, your products are awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. That is so sweet. I'm so glad that you guys enjoy them. So I love that you pointed out the vintage. That'll be something that definitely we'll get to talk about tonight. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, so I will get us started with some of the questions so we can kind of get to know you a little bit more and so that people can hear kind of what your style is and just more about you and how you got started. So let's start with how did you originally get into Disney art?
Well, growing up, my family, we always went to Disneyland every year, like every October. That was our thing. And I still live in the Seattle area, so Disneyland was, the one we went to since it's West Coast. And I just always loved Disneyland. And specifically, I mean, I love Disney. I feel like everyone has good memories of Disney, but Disneyland specifically is just like so sentimental to me. And I have so many great memories of that. So when I, got older and became an artist and ended up making that my career, it just kind of made sense to focus on Disney and what made me happy and what I draw inspiration from. So it just has kind of been a lifelong love of mine that I get to still have, which I love.
Is there a reason that you guys went in October every year?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny. So my dad loves cars. He's like a huge car guy.
Okay.
And he collects Hot Wheels cars. And there was a Hot Wheels convention. I think there still is, but we would go to this Hot Wheels convention that was like in Irvine every October. And then October is also my birthday. So we would like do my birthday in Disneyland and go to this Hot Wheels convention every year. So we really did that until kind of the recession
Yeah.
hit. Then in my 20s, I've made up for it and gone a lot more than once a year.
That's funny. I only ask because my family used to go to Disneyland every October as well. Not every, but like when we would go, it'd be October.
Yeah.
And I finally took Paige to Disney World in October this last year, and it felt like I'm like, see how great it is to go in the fall. I don't know why. It's just something about
Yeah.
Disney in the fall is just I really
It's
like it. So
I do too. And not as much now because I feel like the parks are crowded all the time. But
yeah.
growing up in, the early 2000s, um, it was dead. Like there was nobody
Hmm.
there to walk onto everything. And especially when California Adventure was brand new, it was very like empty. And so
Yeah.
it was always
Right.
a great time to go. But now with all the Halloween stuff, it's super fun in October.
It is fun, but
Yes.
it's like it's like way more. I rolled my eyes, but it's like way more crowded, which is
It's a
such a
lot.
shame. Yeah. I don't
You
know
have
when.
to like hit early October,
Mhm.
otherwise you're like, forget it. This just isn't
Yeah.
worth it.
Yes.
I don't know when Halloween became so dang popular. I don't feel like it used to be. I think social
I
media
feel
just ruined Halloween.
like Halloween is like a big thing now.
Yeah.
And definitely Disney. hopped on that bandwagon for sure.
They did. And I think a lot of people that love Halloween are also people that love Disney. So just forget about it. It's like the Mickey's Not So Scary has become a huge, huge thing, which we were lucky enough to get to do this year. That was something I've wanted to do for a really long time.
Oh,
It was
fun.
awesome.
How
It was
was
worth
it?
it. It was
It was.
amazing. Yes.
Did your daughter like it?
Oh yeah. She loved it. We actually kept her up until like midnight, but it was worth
Which
it. It was worth
she
it.
probably was hyped up on sugar and loved it.
No, she was only 10 months when we took her, so she didn't have any
Oh,
sugar,
okay.
but she
Yeah.
was every time she sees Mickey Mouse, she has like a mild panic attack.
In a
So
positive way.
Relatable.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, so whenever she sees Mickey, she just like flips out. So there was so much emotional stimulation for her that she was fine.
Oh, that's so fun. I'm so glad that you guys got to do that.
Yeah, so it was great. It was great. Well, let's move on to the next question because I want to hear. So we know how you got into Disney art, but where did you get that inspiration for your style of art?
Well, it's kind of a funny story because I'm an art teacher as like my regular job. I do graphic design and I'm an art teacher at an art school in the Seattle area. And so style is something that really, comes up a lot and I teach a lot. But a few years ago, it was in 2019, I did an art show with 6 other artists. And it was really fun because it was my high school art teacher, who still is like a friend of mine and a mentor of mine. And she organized this art show with like 6 of her previous students.
Cool.
And I don't know, have you guys ever seen like that Inktober thing that goes around on social media?
It sounds familiar. I think so.
So a lot of artists do it, and for the month of October, there's like different prompts. It'll be like spooky is one
Oh
day,
yeah,
or
I follow people who do
you know,
that. Now I know what you mean now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So people draw stuff, and I had done some, and so my art teacher was like, "Hey, we should do that idea. Everyone creates 30 art pieces, and we display them, and like you pick what's in your style." And I kind of sat there and went, what what is my style? Like what is it that makes my art mine? And when I really thought about it, I knew that I loved vintage. I've always loved vintage. I love old Hollywood, like 1940s specifically. um, and then I love stuff that has a sentimental meaning to me, which for me is Disney. And so I kind of joined those things together, and that's kind of how I ended up arriving at my current style.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Has your primary art medium always been drawing, like paper pencil, or have you dabbled with other things before you got into kind of the digital with graphic design?
Yeah, so I took art classes for years, and so it was a more classical training. So you learn everything like watercolor, chalk pastel, acrylic, and that's what I teach now. Like I teach all of it. And so I kind of like know how to use all the mediums, but my favorite is I love using gouache, which is something, if you guys are familiar with Anne Shen's work, she uses a lot of gouache. But it's a really great material that kind of is in between watercolor and acrylic. So that's what I use
Cool.
a lot of, but now I do digital art a lot.
Right. That's
That's
interesting. I've
awesome.
never even heard of gouache.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't. It's kind of fallen out of favor, but now with Instagram and illustration being popular, it's kind of resurged again, which makes me happy because
Oh,
I
I
love it.
bet. Yes,
That's
that's
cool. And
awesome.
like with like the so many advancements with digital art, you can almost mimic any style you want to on like a Procreate kind of tool or
Yeah,
whatever it is you're using.
absolutely.
So that's really cool. Love that.
Yeah, it's so fun to get to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. And you've like parlayed this whole hobby into a business. I mean, that's really cool to us. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Would you what was the decision behind doing that? Like taking your artwork and being like this is good enough to sell. I mean, I don't know if you had that thought, but that's essentially what it is. So that's
Yeah,
what was that like?
totally. It's still funny. I mean, I still now sell stuff and I go, I can't believe someone else likes this, someone else wants
Hmm.
this. And it really is something that I set out to do. I mean, I still have like a quote unquote regular job. And I just do this in my free time, but it just something that kind of kept evolving. And I really just saw a huge gap. I'm sure you guys probably saw this sometimes in the Disney parks. The merch can be cheesy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I didn't really find like more adult minimal type stuff that I liked. And so I was like, well, I might as well just make my own. And it kind of just evolved from there.
Yeah, that's one of the things that originally drew me to your artwork. Funny story, real quick. You were actually kind of the reason that we started this Disney Artist Spotlight series. I know you were like, we had all these big name interviews, but it all started with me saying, let's feature some of our favorite artists. So, like, I'm going to start by reaching out to Kirsten because she's like my favorite person on Etsy.
Gosh, I'm
Um,
so honored by that. You have no
yeah,
idea.
absolutely. And a big part of it is just exactly what you just said. It's that we are adults who love Disney and we don't always love some of the cheesier Disney things.
Yeah.
We love the classic Disney products and merch and art, but the minimalistic style is just something that's not out there everywhere. So that was something that we really were drawn to. And also the vintage style. When I was looking at what we wanted to do for our Christmas wrapping paper and labels and everything, I saw that you had the Christmas stuff. I was like, this is exactly what we would
Mhm.
pick. Like, this is what we would pick. If I was an artist, I would try to do something like that, but I'm not. And so that's what you're for.
Yeah, it was funny too because when Paige showed me what she's got, I'm like, wait, you didn't get this one pack that I really wanted, so you can like go back and buy more. Um,
And then we did buy more.
yeah. So,
Oh my gosh. I love that. I really didn't know how much the vintage would resonate with people. I mean, I love so many vintage things. I mean, I collect like vintage head vases and I love all the older movies, like I said, and stuff. And so I was kind of like, I don't know if this is just sort of a me thing. But I was like, well, I love it, so I'm just gonna do it. And everyone has commented on that they just have such a good feeling, that vintage vibe kind of brings. So I love that that connects to other people as well.
For sure. For
yeah, and
sure.
what I like about that too is mixing any kind of your style with pop culture is such a smart move right now because everyone's buying into pop culture.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like from the most obscure things, like for instance, I don't know if this is we'll get to your new collection, but one of the things that you have, I don't know if it's newer or older, is that astronaut Mickey silhouette from Star Trader from the neon. So I don't know if that's
Yes.
in I don't think that's in Magic Kingdom, but I know it's in Disneyland.
I think it was. I
Um,
think I saw it this last
Yeah.
year.
oh, is it in both? Okay, but anyway, like when I
I've
saw
kind
that,
of
it
wondered.
immediately took me back to like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know what that is. I know, that's the Star Trader Mickey that kind of moves. And so
Yes.
there's such a market for like painting your own style over something that pre-exists, and I feel like more people than we think have the same taste as us, even
Mhm.
though we may want to like think we're unique and no one's like us. So many people, they share our loves and interests, and when you can bring your own personal style to that, like that's huge. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I love finding those specific like little things around Disneyland or Disney World. Like the Star Trader sign that you go, oh, that maybe isn't the first thing I think of when I think of the parks, but it's something that you can look at and go, oh, I know exactly what that is. And I actually really love that. I
Yeah,
love those
right.
little elements.
Yeah. So speaking of having this side hustle, this business that has really taken off, what has been one of the biggest challenges for you? I know that you have this full-time art teacher job, but for having this art job on the side, what has been the biggest challenge?
I think something for me that ended up being harder than I expected was doing everything yourself. Like you have to find the manufacturer, you design the product, you order it, you have to take all the listing photos and list them, and launch it and all this, and then pack them and all that stuff. And so that ended up being a little bit harder where you're like, oh, this isn't my strength. The design is,
Mhm.
but all of the organization and photography is not my strength. And so parts of that have been really fun to get to push myself and go, okay, I have to be more organized, I have to work at this, and then also sourcing out things to other people, like different photographers and stuff, to have them shoot it and kind of do what I do best so they can do what they do best.
That's such a smart way of thinking about it. I like, because a lot of our guests have just been like freelance artists and, you know, they work directly with Disney or whatever. They're not really doing a lot of all their own packaging and promotion and stuff like that. It's kind of happening for
Yeah,
them in a lot of ways, which is amazing. And that's, if you can get it, that's great.
so great.
But my real job, I don't podcast for a living, I wish. But my real job is I represent a lot of small businesses with marketing and digital, you know, appearance and stuff like that. And so it's very, on this show, it's gonna be very difficult for me not to be like, oh my gosh, you're doing it really well. Your photos look great. It's right in your style. Like everything that you're doing falls in line with something that I would tell one of my clients or prospective clients to do. So I mean, and even when you said like that you're learning how to farm things out to people, I almost clapped, because that's like so important to not stress yourself out and to you know, like you said, focus on what you're good at. And if you know your design is
Yeah.
so great, you don't want to burn yourself out with it. So that's huge. That's a huge step in business. So that's, you know, I mean, I don't want to, congratulations. What am I saying? But like, that's just props to you.
No, I totally know what you're saying. Yeah. And that's kind of the fun part of it growing, is getting to, tap into other creatives and go, okay, here's my, colors, here's my vision, and now you take it and do what you're really good at. And so that's been a really fun part, to get to work with other creatives on that and kind of see their vision and see, how they would envision it, and get to incorporate that as well. So I love getting to work with other people on that.
That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Absolutely. So this has been a pretty big week for you. I've seen on your social media, you have just done a rebrand and released some new items. So could you tell us a little bit about your new collection, your rebrand, how your designs have sort of been changed a little bit here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like kind of 2020, like January of 2020, before everything COVID happened, I had decided, okay, I really want to do this. I actually want to devote time to doing this shop and marketing it and all that stuff. And obviously, COVID allowed me the time to do it. And so I feel like each year since then, I've kind of figured out what's working and what I like more, and all that stuff. And kind of narrowing down what I'm doing a little bit. And so this rebrand that I just did, I really narrowed down wanting to do more vintage, more specifically like 1950s and even into the 60s, kind of some of those mid-century modern style into my artwork. But then really heavily mixing that with minimalism and, lots of more plain backgrounds and modern colors. Like I've been using a lot of this really, I know you guys can see it, not on the podcast.
I love that sticker. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. This super like dusty blue, which is a
Yeah.
really popular color. And I actually found it from like this Pinterest photo of these matches. And I just like pulled the color from it because I just thought it was so beautiful. And I just think that it's such a fun modern color that mixes so well with vintage. So it's just been doing a lot of like, I'm doing more jewelry and just more of those vintage stickers. I did like the Disneyland mailbox as a pin and as a sticker because I love like those little park elements.
Yes. Yeah, I loved some of the new stuff and I really liked the washi tape too. That was so cute.
Yes, I was excited to finally get to do that. This year I'm going to be branching out into some new products. So there'll be some more things like that coming.
Awesome. That's very cool. So tell us about your favorite piece that you've done. It could be from the new collection. It could be something that is not available anymore. What do you think is your favorite piece that you've done?
I feel like in terms of products, probably the charm bracelet that I have like a charm bracelet with different icons of the park. So I have like the Dole Whip and the castle and the Mouseketeer ear hat and different ones you can pick from. But I just, I'm a child of the 90s, so charm bracelets were a huge deal. And I always was like, oh, that would be so cool to have a Disney charm bracelet. And I've seen other people, do them, which is so great. I love that the Disney small shops, there's so many people doing amazing things and are so supportive of each other. But I was like, it would be fun to get to do my own spin on it. So that's probably been my favorite.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I mean, other people could make Disney charm bracelets, but this one has that vintage style
Mm-hmm.
with your design. And so I think there's not really competition. We can have more than one charm bracelet.
And so many people, that's been such a fun thing about doing this is so many people that even make kind of the same products and are quote unquote competition really aren't in the Disney community. Like people are so supportive and so kind to each other and are really rooting each other on and really there's plenty of space for everybody. So I love that everyone can do their own take on everything. I think that's so fun to see in art.
Right. I love that. A handful of the Etsy shops that I have followed, a lot of them are Disney artists, and I buy stickers from several of you guys because they all do have a different style. Some of you, like you, have more of a vintage style. One of the shops I buy their Halloween stuff because I like the way that she does the Halloween stickers. Some of them it's more of the phrases, and so it's cool that each of you guys kind of have your own niche even within the Disney art world. It's like you can tell that your particular style of art bleeds into the Disney art. So that's what makes you guys each unique. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's so many ways to do, you can all draw the exact same thing and we all are working from the same, material. We're all doing a castle or whatever, but it's all going to be slightly different colors or a different style. So I think that's so fun to get to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to let Steven take over and ask a couple of the personal questions that we didn't send you about your favorite things.
Okay.
Yeah, this has been a really fun segment for us because I like interviewing people, but like it's also fun just to get to know folks too. And I'm sure that our listeners would love to hear a little bit about your Disney taste. So we're going to start off by asking you, what's your favorite Disney ride?
Okay, this is so hard. I mean, that's like picking a favorite child, but I probably have to say Pirates just because that one is the first one. Every time I'm in Disneyland, I always go to Pirates first. It's just a classic, but I do also love Indiana Jones. That one is a top ranker for me,
Mhm.
and I know Disney World doesn't have it, which is so
Yeah.
sad.
You've been to Disney World, right?
I've actually only ever been one time, but
Okay.
I
Okay.
really want to go again. Um, but Florida is like a long way for a
You're the
Seattle
opposite
life. So
corner.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
and
Yeah,
Disney
yeah.
is just like so easy to go down to, and I have an annual pass, so I just end up going to Disneyland. But I do really want to go back to Disney World, more as an adult and kind
Yeah.
of experience that. But
When was the
Indiana,
last time you were there?
it was a long time. It was 2006.
Okay. Yeah, so it's
So
been a
I was
minute.
yeah. So it's been a while. But yeah, Indiana Jones, that's a top ranker definitely for me.
That's as long as it doesn't break down, that's a great ride.
I know this last time that or no, the time before that I went, it broke down. And so you have to get evacuated off of it. And
Yeah.
that's a whole thing. It's always, it kind of dims the magic, you're like, I don't want to see
Yeah,
what it
right.
looks like.
Right.
I
Exactly.
still
I do love it.
I still inexplicably duck whenever the boulder's coming at you, even though I know it's fine and I'm not going to get decapitated. I always just kind of still lean down a little bit and just in hopes that I'm not going to get hit by a boulder. That ride is so good. And it's great. It's funny because
I know. And
we were, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I love the Indiana Jones movies, so I think there's just some of that too that I love. But it's just such a fun ride.
Yeah, in Disney World, because I had never been to Disneyland until I was an adult. We have the Indiana Jones Spectacular. It's just a show, and I've always loved that show. I don't know if it was there when you went when you were younger,
Yeah.
but if you
Yep.
get a chance, it's super fun. And the Indiana Jones ride is very similar to the dinosaur ride in Animal Kingdom.
But better, right?
Well, the Indiana Jones ride is better than the dinosaur ride.
100%.
So when I was in Disneyland for the first time, I was super excited to be able to combine my love for Indiana Jones with my love for the dinosaur ride, and it definitely lived up to the hype.
Yeah, that's one of those that should be in both parks because I think people would really like it.
I think so.
Yeah. It's funny that
Yeah,
you
it's so
said
fun.
that picking a favorite ride is like picking a favorite child, because when we were interviewing um Jared a couple weeks ago, um I I told him my favorite ride was, what did I say? I think I said like Star Tours, which is true. I love that ride. And then we got off and I'm like, but I really like the Matterhorn. So it's funny
No,
because
and
like
you
there's
kind of have to
never a good option. Like there's never a good
know.
answer.
And you're like, do you pick a classic, or do you pick a new one? Because, you're like, well, Rise of the Resistance is so good, and Matterhorn
Hmm.
is good, and Big Thunder is good, like all for different reasons.
Right.
Right.
So it's so hard. You can't compare them.
Yeah.
But
And when you said pirates, I thought, well, yes, she loves classic and vintage things, and pirates is a classic that fits the whole aesthetic there. So I thought that made sense.
So being a
yeah,
Disneyland person, are you a Blue Bayou person as well?
you know, I'm not a fan. I think it's kind of overrated.
That's Say whatever you want.
It's
I'm not gonna get mad.
overrated. I'm honestly like not a huge Disney like food person. Like I think their snacks are great. I mean, like Dole Whip, hello, so good.
Yeah,
But
100%.
their, their food, like we always ate, and even still now, a lot of the time when I go to Disneyland, I go with just my mom. Like her and I will just go together, and we eat most of the time in downtown Disney, just because the food you're like, it's not like there's certain places I
I hear
like,
that.
but as
I
a
hear that.
food's kind of like not killer.
There's
So
there's far fewer big restaurants in Disneyland and DCA than there are in Disney World. That's for sure. When I was growing up, I don't know why we did this, but we would hit up the Denny's across the street sometimes.
yeah, no, as a kid we would like go to other places, or
Yeah.
in and out on the way back to the hotel or all that.
And
All
Disney
that.
World people will never understand spending a day in Disney and then going to Denny's afterward. Like that is such a California absolute pleasure that they don't get. So
Oh, totally, right? Walking back to your hotel, like they
it's
don't
like a
understand what that's like.
yeah, and it's like 2 miles away or whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah. After you've walked all day and then you're schlepping it back to the hotel at like
Right.
10:30.
Because we don't have the money to stay in the expensive Disney property hotels because they don't have value resorts. It's like $800 a night or nothing.
I
Um,
know, I know. It's so
that's so
crazy.
funny. So I have a feeling I'm going to know your answer, but I'll ask anyway. Do you have a favorite Disney park?
Well, Disney, I have to go Disneyland. I mean, Disney World is cool. And like I said, I really want to go back as an adult. And, it's I feel like you can't compare them. One is, Disney World's really a resort. Disneyland is that like original magic. But I always get so offended when Disney World people are like, oh, it's so small. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's just not the same. Disneyland is so special.
Mhm.
So Disneyland's forever my favorite.
I'm the exact same way. Like I would say Disneyland is my first favorite for sure. And then I would say like Epcot would be my second. You know what? No. Hollywood Studios would be my second because they also have Galaxy's Edge there. So I'd prefer to
Yes.
go there
Oh
over
my
anything else.
gosh.
But like, yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm with you on that. I've never been a huge like promoter of Magic Kingdom and saying it's my favorite. But no, Disneyland is there's literally no shame in saying Disneyland's your favorite park. And people that say
Yeah.
it's small,
I
it's
love
like
Disneyland.
it was built in Anaheim. What do you expect? Walt didn't
Yeah.
sneakily buy all these properties and acres to, build this giant kingdom. So
And it's special, like it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's a different like magic there, that there's just kind of a different feeling, like I think Disney World, you do go for the park experience. And this could just be my take on it, but I feel like Disneyland, you kind of go for the feeling, like people just go and hang out, and not even really ride anything, but it's just fun to be there and hear the Main Street music and smell the pirates' water.
yeah, I heard someone say one time, I don't remember where it was, but like Disney World is like a tourist park and Disneyland is kind of like a personal park where it's like locals and stuff and everyone kind of wants to be there. Like you
Yeah,
don't
I
really
agree
typically
with that.
hear people moving to LA to go be near Disneyland, but you hear everyone like moving down to Orlando to go be near Disney World. So it's like if you live within like spitting distance of LA, which for me was like the San Francisco Bay Area, it was still like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
that's my place. I just go down there and that's what we do. So yeah,
Oh
I get
yeah,
that. That
and
makes
even
total
up in
sense.
And like in Seattle, everybody went to Disneyland, because it's like
Yeah.
a little over a 2-hour flight. And
I was gonna
so
say it's so close.
yeah, oh, totally. Like a lot of the time, even now, we'll go down like on a Tuesday afternoon and, you're there and eating in and out by 6 p.m. and go ride like rides and then go back to the hotel. So it's definitely easy for the whole West Coast to get down there.
I just want to just to say on the record, we love Disney World. So I'm not knocking Disney World at all.
Oh,
I think
and
it's a
Disney
great
World,
park. I love
Disney
the
World is
buses.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Like, how can you not go there and just be like, this is insane? And Disney World has way better food options. I'll give it that.
Yeah, and I feel like you get more bang for your buck when you go there because there's so much to do. I just wanted to make sure no one was offended and thinking we're hating on Disney World. That is not the case.
Oh no,
I will choose it all the time.
Yeah, Disney World's great. And it's nice that it's kind of all in one. Like it's that whole immersive experience. Disneyland obviously just can't have that because it's small. So they're different. You can't compare them. You love them both.
When I don't remember, I think it might have been the first time that we were in Disneyland together. We were riding at the time Mickey's Fun Wheel, now Pixar Pal Around, which is just a terrible name for a ride. And we got up to the very top of the Ferris wheel, and Paige is like, I can literally see people's backyards. And I'm like, yeah, well, welcome to it. Whereas like if you're on the the Sky Train, what's that called? Why did I forget that? The name of the thing, the zip line, the freaking gondolas. What are they called?
The gondolas?
Yeah, and
the Skyliner.
Skyliner. Whoa, I don't know. I was gonna say the people mover. Anyway, if you're on the Skyliner and you look around, you're like, well, I can see the top of Everest. I can see the top of the castle. Like you can.
I see this resort.
And then you're like, other than that, it's just what? So it's crazy.
Yeah,
the
it's
difference is
definitely
wild.
Yeah, like in California, you walk from your hotel and you're like, oh, there's the back of Cars Land. I can see the outline of the mountains.
Right. That's so funny. Do you have a favorite Disney movie?
Again, that's so hard. I feel like the first thing that comes to mind, I mean, princess movies, I love Beauty and the Beast and Mulan because Mulan was like so cool. So I loved that. But then I love the Aristocats. But then I love Emperor's New Groove, which people either are like, yes, that's the best ever. They're like, I've never even seen that, which is very offensive to me. But I love the Emperor's New Groove.
Same age. So I think we're talking about
probably
the same films that we grew up with.
Yeah. I was actually gonna, if you didn't say Aristocats, I was gonna be like, so then what's with the Aristocats stickers on your website? Because I saw those and I was like, only someone who's dedicated to that movie would make stickers of cats in a teapot.
I love the Aristocats. I always loved the Aristocats. I had like a Marie plush stuffed animal as a kid. For some reason, that just like really hit the spot for me. I just loved the Aristocats.
Just did the trick. The one thing that sticks out to me about the Aristocats is when the I don't remember his name, but the mouse comes out with a Ritz cracker and dips it in milk. But when I saw that as a kid, I could like taste the cracker, and I was like, oh, that'd go down so smooth right now. A little cracker and cat milk.
He brings that scene up randomly all the time.
Yeah, I have these weird I have like these weird visceral memories of things that I've seen on movies and television shows that I can like smell and taste. And I don't know why, but I just can do that. And so it's a really, really strange superpower that I have.
That was really meaningful to you, obviously.
Yeah, huge. I have some other very meaningful cartoon moments in my formative years, but I'm gonna not talk about those on the show.
Well, I'm glad Roquefort made the list.
Yeah.
Oh, big time, yeah.
When I think about the Aristocats, all I can think about is when somebody overlaid Lizzo on Marie playing the piano. Have you ever seen that video?
No. That's so
it's very good.
It is hilarious. We'll have to send it to you after this.
I was gonna say we could put a little clip of it in our show, but then that would just be a Lizzo song. So
yes, definitely send that to me. I know I always when I think of the Aristocats, I always think of them like playing the piano, with the paint on their paws.
That stressed me out.
What was I guess it spoke to the artist in me.
Who was the who was the antagonist in that movie? Like, what was their conflict they had to resolve? Because I only remember them just chilling and O'Malley just kind of being this cool dude and that old lady who sang like Sha Ra Ra Boom Dee or whatever. What was the conflict? Like, what happened in that movie that made it worth watching? 'Cause I don't remember at all.
They like it's actually been a long time since I've seen it, but the Duchess, who's like Zsa Zsa Gabor, the white cat,
Mhm.
is like the cat of the rich old lady, and I think they steal the kittens
Okay.
to, like, I don't know if it was to ransom them or what. I can't quite remember, but
Oh.
then they have to get back home. And Thomas O'Malley like has to help them. But I know
Okay.
I just said it's one of my favorites, and now I'm like, what was the
Well, and
plot?
they have like the scene when all the cats like play blues music. Um,
Yes.
Paige and I are considering, we've talked about, because we have this Patreon thing that's like not really doing anything. And we've talked about maybe trying to jumpstart it a little bit by doing like, watching Disney movies and talking about them in real time. So if we do that, maybe we'll have you back on and we'll watch the Aristocats and like talk about it while we're doing the show. 'Cause I think that'd be really fun.
Yes.
And the more I'm
That'd
thinking
be
about
so.
it, the more I'm kind of thinking we should do like fever dream Disney movies and talk about them, like what was going on back in those days.
I know, honestly, that movie has so many like weird cuts, that like the blues scene, that you're like, why is this in here other than to have a catchy song? But I kind of don't mind because it's a
Right.
catchy song. So
Yep.
who knows?
Exactly.
That would be a live action John Favreau picture I would like to see. But like don't let the cats talk. Just have them
Um,
just walk around and do cat things.
yeah, honestly, like
Mood.
forget Lion King. Get to the Aristocats.
Yes.
We often talk about how bad the Lion King remake was.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. And John Favreau is so good at like everything. I just go, what happened? Just go back to doing The Mandalorian and we'll be
I
happy.
know.
First of all, John Favreau's a genius for a lot of reasons. And if for nothing else, it's because he went to Marvel and was like, I would like to make a superhero movie about one of your weirdest, most obscure superheroes in an iron suit. And they're like, okay, I'll see where it goes. So genius.
Uh,
I actually believe that the Lion King, this isn't gospel, but I think the Lion King was made because they wanted to push their technology and see how far it could go. And so I don't think that it
mm,
was like a moneymaker as much as it was like we have all these cool like new technologies that we want to push and make new movies with and do things with. So here's what it could do. And then was it like they have that big I always forget the name of it, but like that room that they have with the video screens where like the character where
oh,
people
the
can like the
volume.
vol yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
I think that they were using that kind of technology and like motion capture and stuff to film that. And I think that's why it was made. That
that
being
would make
said,
sense.
it could have been a documentary.
Yeah. I don't know what was going on with that, but that was just very disappointing. But
Mhm.
I just want him to do more Star Wars stuff with Dave Filoni and I'll be happy.
Yeah, that was another question that I had for you. We've kind of covered all of our question bases and we'll ask you to promote stuff, but I saw that you did a sticker with Ahsoka.
My
I'm assuming you're an Ahsoka fan, yes?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So Ahsoka is my favorite. So I have an older brother and we like loved I mean, he loved Star Wars, and so I just grew up with it. And like in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the prequels came out, they were just a huge deal. Like episode 2, I don't even know how many times I watched that as a kid, probably a ridiculous amount, because it just was my favorite, and Padme was cool and all that stuff. But once I watched Clone Wars, now I feel like everyone's like on the Ahsoka bandwagon, which
Yeah.
honestly I'm happy about because she's awesome. But when we watched the Clone Wars, my brother was like, hey, this character is going to be super annoying at first, and then you're going to love her. And I was like, okay, well, she's kind of annoying in this show. And then as it kept going, I was like, no, she's the best character. So
Yeah.
I love Ahsoka. She's my favorite. And then when she appeared in The Mandalorian, I was like, just kill me now. This
Yeah.
episode is the best.
I have to admit, I didn't watch the Clone Wars animated series until 2 years ago. I'm a
Okay.
huge Star Wars fan, huge, and I'm not a purist. It says like only the originals are the good ones. I grew up on like the prequels as well, and the first time I actually ever
Yeah.
saw it, I saw two in Disneyland actually at our hotel on like a really janky television. we went back for like a break, and so I think my parents must have rented it back when you could like rent movies in hotels that were in theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so we watched it there. But yeah, the first time I ever put on the Clone Wars was probably like 6 or 7 years ago, and I watched the first part of the episode, and they had the narrator, and I was like, nope, and I turned it off. And then a buddy of mine was like, you need to watch this, like you need to just get into it. And so now I have like 4 Ahsoka pop figures in my office, and yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yep.
Big fan.
Ahsoka is the best. And I kind of had that same thought when, because my brother had watched it like from the beginning. I mean, he's like Star Wars super fan, way, way more than I even am. And he was like, okay, it'll take a minute to get off, but like, trust me, this show is so good and it gets better like the further in you get. And I kept watching and I was like, oh yeah, this is really good.
I similarly like didn't watch Rebels for a lot. Sorry, this is a Star Wars podcast now.
That's okay.
Um,
I just
We're just hijacking it.
I
Paige is like
don't
working on a
know.
novel over there. I put off Rebels too because I was like, this animation is so crude and terrible. I don't want to watch this. And Rebels is just, I mean, forget about it. It's so good. But I also didn't realize
Yeah,
the
it is.
magic of Dave Filoni at the time either. And we should have
Yeah.
your brother on the show. Maybe your brother and I'll do an episode.
Oh,
But
he
yeah, no,
would love
he's
to talk about Star
magic.
Wars.
So good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Dave Filoni. Like, I feel like he just totally gets Star Wars. Like, he himself seems just like a Star Wars nerd, which is perfect. Like, that's what you need. And he kind of gets in. I feel like Star Wars is the best when it's kind of a little bit weird, and there's all these weird characters and stuff. And he kind of just leans into that, like with like Asajj Ventress and all that, like quirky kind of more in-depth Star Wars stuff, which
Right.
I think is so interesting. And all the Mandalore episodes are just off the chart, so
Yeah.
good.
There's an interview with him where he's talking about where he almost starts crying talking about the scene in Jedi when Palpatine's like, you like your father are mine or something like that. And he like gets really emotional about it. I'm like, dude, you really, really like this show, these movies a
Loves
lot, a lot,
it.
a lot.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's really great.
On a side note, have you ever seen, maybe it was in one of the Mandalorian roundtables. Now I can't quite remember, but when he talks about the Duel of the Fates,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, that is just like so good. And he talks about how it's really about the fate of Anakin and of
Paige,
good and
this is
evil.
the lava
Oh,
fight
so good.
in Revenge of the Sith. I
Thank
just
you
want
for
to
the
make sure.
context.
Okay. So Paige is
Yeah.
so if you talked about Harry Potter right now, Paige, I would leave the room and go get a water, and Paige would talk to you all day long.
Well, I've never seen it or read it.
Well, if you ever change your mind, then we can talk about Harry Potter. I'd be happy to go as in depth as you guys are going about Star Wars with you about Harry Potter. I have only seen the Star Wars movies like once.
And they're her
each.
favorite. She loves them.
Yes. I actually like them. I just am not super into them. Like I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with them. My brother's younger than me, so he was like too young for any of the Star Wars movies to be excited about them.
He was like too young for the prequels, and then like too old for the Rey series.
Correct.
So
Yep.
that's a bummer of a place to be for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you do kind of have to hit on it being a little bit nostalgic. And apparently it ticked all my boxes. So
Yeah, that's literally
Yeah,
exactly how I
for
was. Like
sure.
I'll even go back and watch Revenge of the Sith and be like, this is actually pretty good.
I love, like, honestly, I mean, some of the dialogue is a little bit cringe, but like when
A little.
Obi-Wan
You
is
can be honest. It's really bad.
okay. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But honestly, the more I watch them, the more I'm like, oh, these actually are kind of better than like episode 9. But I like the scene when Obi-Wan is crying over Anakin, to saying, you were my brother. That just gets every time. I'm like, oh, that part is so good.
I started watching I've been on a kick of Danny Boyle films. Like
Okay.
his film like Trainspotting and Shallow Grave and stuff like that. And a lot of them are very Ewan heavy because they were like British film in the 90s, and it's so funny to watch young Ewan McGregor and things that aren't Star, because my first introduction to him was Star Wars. So now
Yeah,
watching him in a bunch of other things, that he was really, really, really good in like his early 20s is very fun. He's great. They're all great. And I'm really glad.
he's the redeeming part, I feel like, of the prequels. Like everyone, it's just universal that everybody loves Obi-Wan and Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan.
Yeah. All right. I feel like we've really, really gone off the rails here.
Yeah, I know
So
we got so far off on Star Wars, so
That's
we'll get
okay.
back to the Disney Parks podcast.
I'm
Yeah.
sure we have tons of Star Wars fans though who will appreciate this little banter.
Yeah. So we're just going to conclude by asking you, is if there's anything that you want to promote. So we talked about your new collection and stuff, and we're going to link to everything in our notes and stuff like that. But if you want to talk about what you want to promote, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so I think just mostly that my like newest collection is all on my website, which is kirstenjudkinsdesign.com. But one thing that I do love to tell people, because it's something I'm super passionate about, is that a portion of all of my sales go to sponsor children in West Africa. So sponsorship provides clean water and education and healthcare for kids. And the two organizations that I donate to, one I actually used to work for, but they are very much invested in, we don't take over, but we just provide what these kids need so that they can transform their communities and really make an impact in their country, because they're the ones who know their country. They're the ones who love their country. We just want to come alongside and help them. And so that's something that I'm like super passionate about and love to let people know that their purchase also is helping to help other people.
That's awesome.
That's
And we'll
amazing.
link those organizations in our show notes too, to make sure people can hear about them and learn more. Well, cool. Well, Kirsten, thank you seriously so much for coming on our show. We really liked having you here, and we'll hit you up about the Aristocats things. I think that'd be a good time.
Yes.
So yeah,
So
thank you
fun.
so much. This has been great.
Oh, it's been so much fun to do this with you guys. Like I said, I'm so honored that you guys wanted me on your show, and it's always so fun to talk about Disney. Always up for that.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you guys.